Hey guys, I am John Carrick, author of Legacy of a Mad Scientist and The Legend of Ashley Fox. Two science fiction fantasy novels for you available on Amazon Smashwords or right here on YouTube as audiobooks temporarily. They will be going away. They're not going to stay out here permanently because I am going to re-record them and put them out on Audible for sale as soon as I finish the third novel. Last night I did 2,000 words. I'm at 108,000 words for this new novel. It's like 270 pages, 8.5 by 11. So I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing really good. And today we're looking at Dogs of London #1. And I also want to mention Marcus 1 and 2. Look, I didn't give this a bad review out of anything except it is what it is. It's just not my kind of book. I don't think I gave it a bad review, but I have some advice for the writer of this comic. Because when a comic is bad, no one blames the artist. This is one thing Todd McFarlane, they'll say that's awful art, but no one will ever say it's the artist's fault. When a comic is bad, it's the writer's fault. It's always the writer's fault. The writer is the guy in charge. And this comic isn't bad, but this comic isn't great. And if you really want to make comics, now if this is a burning story that you have to tell, great. If you really want to make comics, your first comic has to be good. It has to be really good. This is incredibly expensive real estate. This is the most, if you're a comic book creator, if you're an artist, not if you're an artist, if you're just an artist, whatever, but if you're a comic book creator and you want to produce comics, it's the same thing with novels. My novel, the brick of paper, the number of trees that I killed to write my novel, the story justifies it. The story has to justify the art and the effort on the part of everyone else involved. It has to justify the work of the guy cutting down the fucking trees. You're gonna murder a tree for your story? It better be fucking good. It had better be good. This is okay. It's not great. This is decent for a production house that has to pump something out because they're in business and they have to keep moving. This is not the story that is burning through your soul to tell. And again, wasted real estate. Sorry, I'm spending 2 episodes going off on this one guy's book when we should be talking about this. Same problems here. Exact same fucking problems here. Again, I don't know if this is their first book or if this is a established company. I don't recognize that logo. But I've seen this TV show. It's called Gangs of London. It's not even, and it came out before this. It came out in 2020. Gangs of London came out in 2020. Jacob Cole, I think his name is, Joe Cole, who was in Peaky Blinders. This also has parts of Peaky Blinders in it. This has parts of, half a dozen Tom Hardy English gangster movies in it. This has pieces of the video game that I played. This has pieces of Rise of the Foot Soldier. All right, let me tell you what happens. There's just 2 guys out digging a hole, digging a grave for someone. And look, I will give the narration. The narration, all of this comic is perfect. This comic is a Netflix TV show or a Prime TV show or whatever. But it's a TV show, not a comic book. There's a difference between comics and TV shows. If you're going to just do a Netflix pitch as a comic book, look, maybe this is everything this guy ever wanted. I feel bad for him. Peter Milligan hired Artacita as the artist, and Artacita thought he was doing a mobster book, and he may well be Italian or Spanish because all of his gangsters look Italian and Spanish. They do not look Irish. Peter Milligan fucked up. I'll just come right out and say it. He fucked up by not hiring an Irish artist. Or at least a Russian artist, because these guys all look Italian. It's not until halfway through the book that they start to look like they're English. And here's another problem. The characters are interchangeable, and I don't care about any of them. Nothing happens that's important. Nothing happens that shows me that these are good people. So this is in the 60s or the 70s in London, and the main character is having an affair, and it's an affair. This is not his girlfriend. This is a girl he's sleeping with. In my experience, girls didn't do this in their 20s. Maybe they did. Maybe I was just a sucker. But this guy gets an hour with her, like a week or whatever, and her brother runs the enemy gang. And she comments that it's like Romeo and Juliet. He pretends not to know what she's talking about. She says the Montagues and the Capuas. He pretends not to know what she's talking about, and then comments about how it's important to let people think you're dumb. There was another thing. Okay, this is good, because there was another thing I wanted to talk about as well, and I can fit it into this comic. So they work at a strip club. They have a part ownership in a strip club, and that's where they hold their meetings and do all their nefarious nonsense out of a strip club. And there's a girl there who they tell her to do something. They tell her to dance harder, and she talks back, and they threaten to kill her. And so, again, I've seen this movie a dozen times, by a dozen different filmmakers, and I played the game. I think it's not called Black Friday. I don't remember what it's called, but there was a video game that came out back in PS3 days, maybe even PS2, that was a really good English gangster video game. It was awesome. And this comic book does not compare. It doesn't even have a car chase. It just has people talking shit to each other. That's all this is. It's people talking shit to each other in an English-themed story. And then, just as it fucking gets interesting, right? So here's this main character. I don't remember his name is. Yesterday, I got this main character's name wrong. His name was not Gideon. Of course, Gideon was Trencher, but this guy's name is Gentile. Cameron Gentile is the name of the news reporter, and he changed artists. So here's a writer blaming his artist for the lack of success with the first comic. Art is still black and white. It's tolerably better. I did not even read it. I'm just flashing it to show you guys that we do not get this. We do not get a story about an immortal who killed Jesus. We get a story about a bad guy who might have some magical powers that give him immortal life from some biblical events. There's nothing about the Bible in here. I mean, I don't want to call it false advertising, and I don't want to call this false advertising either. They're not bad comics, but they're not Trencher, and Trencher sucked. So here's what happens. Let me keep continuing with this. Here he goes into a fashion. This is very interesting. I do like that he and his friends dressed in suits and ties, whereas the rest of London is sort of embracing the hippie love of the 60s. And that was a real thing that happened in England. There was a cultural divide between the guys who were sort of the old 50s style and people who were embracing the new culture, and there was no crossover. You didn't go skating with, that's the thing. It's not like today, not like the 90s, when you could hang out and be cool with everyone. Now you can't be cool with everyone. This is a lot like that. You could not be cool with everyone in the 60s, and that's what happens in this scene. He asks this girl to tell the girl that he's sleeping with, the girl that he's having an affair with, in the orange dress, he asks her black friend at the clothing shop to tell her not to be on her home block tomorrow because they're going to fuck it up. Now, if you think that's not going to get leaked to the other gang, you're out of your fucking mind. But we don't get that far. Here he goes home to visit his mom. His dad still lives there. His dad has given his mom a black eye. This kid hates his father, and he punches him out. Good for him. But he's also a gangster, and his father's a working man. His father's being oppressed by the man because he's just a guy with a job, and he's got parasites. If you're just a guy with a job and you have dependents, then it's very hard to get ahead, especially if those dependents are only holding you down. Look, I freely admit, as a child, I was a dependent. I was a parasite on my parents. My parents had no greater goals and they couldn't afford to. They couldn't afford to because they had 14 children. And so things were not as bad as here. This guy's dad is just a drunk and a dick. So... Anyhow, then we get to the scene where they arrive on Audrey's block and have a fight and apparently blow it up. Hold on. No, I'm not good. Look. Yeah, it's a fight. Oh, there's a bunch of other shit. No, okay, so it's not just that. This is the gang war exploding all over town. And so it's spreading, other shit is getting blown up. They don't blow up the bar, they just have a fist fight in the bar, and then they go and blow up his car dealership, and they go and blow up other places. This is a scene in, I want to say a Harvey Keitel movie, where he runs through and blows up all the cars in a lot. I don't remember what movie, but it's some gangster movie, some mobster movie. Oh, Henry Hill did this. Henry Hill did this. The young Ray Liotta character in Goodfellas went and blew up all those cars. And then we get this guy who is with the dancer who was talking back, Flora. She's just sort of a fixture, as they call them. And then we cut forward to 2010. So there was the gang wars of the 60s, and we skip all the Peaky Blinders seasons where he came up and now he's just up. And so he's being knighted, and he's frustrated that he's being knighted by one of the sons and not by like the queen herself. He's being knighted by a young noble and not one of the older nobles he respects. So nothing, like, look, this part of this is good in that if you're a shitbag, nothing fucking goes right. And even when things go right, they don't go right. This doesn't go right because it matters to him. And it matters to him because he's a criminal. And if you're a criminal, this goes right back to that special forces thing. I'm just going to put that down for a second. I was listening to a special forces operator talk about how all these special forces influencers are not role models. They're as corrupt as any criminal. They'll cheat, they'll do steroids, they'll fuck over their team members to get ahead, to win. Maybe not in the field. Maybe in the field there's a different code of conduct. But the problem is when you encourage shitbag behavior, when winning at all costs becomes everything, you've already lost. There's a few things I could say. There's a few semi-famous people I could indict, and I don't necessarily want to today. It doesn't mean I won't in the future, but just because someone looks like don't compare their highlight reel with your behind the scenes. And that should be the goal of your life. My behind the scenes right now is better than any fucker's highlight reel. Here's what I was going to say that I held off on, but I'm going to say it anyhow. Alex Hormozy ain't got shit on me. He might have a ton of fucking money, but you can look in that guy's eyes and see that he fucking hates himself. And he hates himself because he got rich by ripping people off over supplements. If you watch enough of his videos, he'll tell you that's what he did, but he had to find out how to structure the offer, how to sell people their own dreams so well that they would buy supplements from him at twice the cost. He was so good at selling them the idea of getting in shape and being healthy that he could sell them supplements at twice the cost. And that is his business model today. That's what he's selling you on YouTube. School, that was the first thing they taught us in the Marine Corps. You had to give a class every week. So that gets you up in front of people, it builds your confidence, and you have to learn shit. Continuing with the comic book. Again, this has to be, if you're going to do a comic book, if you're going to write a novel, the first page of your novel has to be the most expensive real estate in your life. It is the most important thing you will ever fucking do. And I went so far as to make the sample page. Every page in my fucking book is awesome. I could die tonight, tomorrow, I'm enlightened, I'm going to heaven, because I'm living heaven right now. I may be a little forceful, that's just my personality. I'm as happy as I can fucking get. I really am. And I discovered a new drawing technique that's going to help me accelerate my art, my getting stuff out to you guys. Now, the reason I haven't focused on comics is because I don't have 2 pages that I have to do. I have epics that I have to do. Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, The Tick, and The Crow. Those are the best examples of an artist who was also a writer and had to get it out. That's a triple threat, and those aren't in color. Those are penciled, inked, and written by the artist. He'd be a quadruple threat if he could color too. And John Vasquez, Invader Zim looks fucking great, so whoever he hired as a colorist, he's a good choice of character in that regard. Here we get this guy, I don't even remember his name. His name doesn't matter because he's the same character in a dozen fucking gangster movies. He's married the stripper. They are living in a nice house. They have kids. They have kids who go to private schools, who talk shit to them. And he's talking to one of his friends who's also doing well, out living somewhere on the French Riviera, the Caribbean, who knows. He's having the good life. The Cayman Islands, maybe. His wife is half his age. Personally, I treat my relationships the way I treat my stories. I don't want to lie. I'm not going to date a whore just because she's pretty. I'm much happier alone. And you know, when it comes to being alone, this was something I was going to say the other day too, and I forgot. But over Christmas, you know, everyone feels sorry for the lonely people. I'm not lonely, man. I'm so fucking happy. I am so goddamn happy. Living with people can be a chore if they're not their best selves. So here we get, this is the final page, and the story actually comes to mean something. The people that they were burying in the beginning have been dug up, and they buried them near a river, and this is like 30 years later, and they are not decomposed at all. So is there something miraculous happening? Is this just a bit of comic book magic, a plot hole that we're going to overlook, or will it be explained later? Does it even fucking matter? Because I don't care about these people. They're shitty people. So I've got the whole series. I didn't read any of this. Because how could it fucking matter? You didn't care enough for the first 20 pages of the book. Why am I going to care about the last 3 or 4? Again, the best thing these indie comics companies do is ads. So, and look, if you guys didn't notice, this is the Conan #1 cover. It says after BWS down here at the bottom. So that's an homage cover. And if the interior of the book, if they had started with the crucifixion and carried this guy's life forward, I'd be a lifelong reader. But that's not what they chose to do. You can do anything you fucking want in your story. It's you. It's your story is your very own soul. The reflection of your story is your soul on paper. And once you do it often enough, you can be courageous enough to put down whatever you want. But your first one, it's got to be good. It's got to be really good. It's got to be so good you want to do it again, and then again, and then again. And maybe these guys want to do it again. I don't know. He changed his art team. I've been working with the same artist since we went to animation school together in 1998. He's doing his stuff, I'm doing my stuff. We're working together right now. We have not found a company to publish our stuff at, but we're going to do it ourselves. Why not? Why not? And this internet is going to help me bring it out to you guys. So, Merry Christmas. I hope everything is going well for you. We do have a conflicted card today. This is a really simple one. I don't remember what this is. The 2 of hearts, maybe? I can't see that. It's probably a heart, not a diamond. But it's a really simple one. Let's say the world collapses tomorrow. What are you going to do? What steps are you going to take to start rebuilding it? And specifically, how are you going to organize the leadership of your group? That's the easy answer. Leadership is natural. Leadership happens. It's not something that's forced. When it's forced, it becomes tyranny. When leadership happens, it's called mentorship. That's just the elderly actually taking a real interest in the young and not trying to fuck them over. We haven't had that in this country since the Vietnam War. The boomers decided fuck their children. I remember this was a popular sentiment amongst the boomers. If I had all the money in the world, you'd still have to work for a living. They'd tell their children. I can't remember how many times I heard that from my parents. If I had all the money in the world, you'd still have to go out and get a job. It doesn't mean we're going to pay for everything for you. And that was something they heard from someone else. They didn't come up with that on their own, specifically my mom. My parents were both drunks, so it's hard to give them credit for anything except alcohol. And look, that's the choice they made. So yeah. Sorry this isn't as happy as I would like it to be. I really feel bad about yesterday. First, because because I lost half of that rant or diatribe, and second, because, well, coming back to it didn't feel good. It really didn't. But today, I wish we were doing a Conan comic that I loved, and maybe that's what we'll do tomorrow. I'm not going to do the rest of this series on here. This is the decision that I have come to. This is what I've learned the last 2 days. If I get one bad comic from you, it's not getting a second one on here. So I can't afford it. It brings me down too much, and I feel bad to my. Now, there is things you can learn from a bad comic, but mostly it's about your personal, how good does it have to be for you? For me, the first 2 pages have to be awesome. Until I can do 2-page stories like Liberty Meadows or Calvin and Hobbes, that is, I think, the high watermark. The shorter you can make a story, if you're a meme god, you can't make any money with it, but you should be able to make stories. So that's what I'm looking for, and that's what I'm working toward. All right, see you guys tomorrow. Merry Christmas.